All right, it says we are live. I'm going to give it a minute to make sure that it's working like it's supposed to. It takes a minute or two for that to catch up and work right. There it is. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It's been a hot minute since I've been able to hop on here and do a live. I had a little bit of travel, one little weekend trip that was planned and kind of a last minute one that was super fun. Good morning, Catherine from Clarkston, another Washington State. And Marianne, good morning from Pennsylvania. Happy spring, everybody, too. I just realized about halfway through yesterday, my daughter mentioned that it was the first day of spring, and it just kind of snuck up on me. I think once here in the US, daylight savings happens, you kind of just forget that all of a sudden just feels like the days get longer and everything just kind of explodes so quickly into spring that it's just super fun. So after all of that travel, I just didn't have time in between to hop on and go live. But I really wanted to play with the new Simon Says stamp release. It's the Rain or Shine release that just went live. And I've just recently been kind of breaking out watercolors again. And full disclosure, disclaimer, whatever you want to say, I am not an expert at watercoloring, but I do really enjoy it. I try and keep it pretty simple, and I thought it would be fun to put together a fun little scene today with that. Good morning, Mercedes and Wendy, no problem at all. Have fun at the hairdresser. Those are always fun appointments. Hello, Carol, California. Mercedes, I bought flowers yesterday too. They are the most beautiful roses. I don't know if you have a Trader Joe's where you are, but they've had these, I think they call them garden roses, but they just look like something out of a vintage rose garden. They're like that. I don't know. I can't even describe. I might post a picture in my stories later today, but they're so pretty. I just saw them. I think that's the second time I've gotten one of that grouping from them. They're so reasonably priced and they're just so pretty. It makes me happy. Especially like you said, when spring is here. In the winter, I feel like I get flowers to kind of get me through winter. In spring, I get flowers to make me excited to go out and enjoy the sunshine. So yeah, I'm excited for spring. I'm excited for longer days and sunshine and getting outdoors a little bit more. I know, Catherine, you probably understand here in Washington State, we have pretty mild winters, so I really can't complain, but often they can be rainy. So you kind of have to take the opportunities between the rainstorms to get out and enjoy the sunshine, or liquid sunshine, I guess, whatever you want to call it. So I love to go on walks, so I usually try and sneak those in between. Hello, Julie, and welcome. All right. I usually like to give it a few minutes, let everybody kind of find where we are and catch up, but I think we're settled in pretty good and people can just keep joining as they make it over here. So I might switch my camera around and we'll go ahead and just kind of get started nice and slow here. Mercedes, you had rose. Okay, wait, do you mean like roses in a plant form or a bouquet of roses? Because I know they don't survive super long in a bouquet, but they're still beautiful and worth the effort. All right, I'm gonna sip a little more of my tea here. All right, let's get that out of the way so we can start focusing. So this is the new set. I have not used this set very much. I think pretty much the only thing I used it on that I'll share soon is that little cute sentiment with the little ducky die. I don't remember which one it was. But I wanted to kind of put together a fun little scene. So just to give you an idea of kind of what I have in mind, we'll see how it all plays together. I want to pop that barn kind of in the background. I want to use this little girl with the wheelbarrow and then the apples, and then maybe tuck, you know, a couple little critters around. I haven't fully decided. Good morning, Barb from Dayton, Ohio. So glad you could join today. So that's kind of my plan right now. I have some distress watercolor cardstock. Again, like I said, I'm not any kind of an expert. If I'm doing florals, sometimes I'll use some different, but I like just how bright and white this is, so it goes good with white cardstock. It's just, for a simple beginner like me, it really works. And then I have the bigger of, oops, that doesn't show from the back what these are. These are the, I've got them linked in the video description, but this is a smaller palette of watercolors. Let me grab the other big one. I've used this one, the bigger size. You can see it's a lot bigger. for many years, and it's got just like some good basic primary colors. But I got this set and I really loved, I only used it one time with some cards I posted yesterday from the new release, the little Rain or Shine, the little bear critters. But I love these really soft colors. You can kind of, they just feel like spring to me. So I thought that they would be really fun to use for a spring card today. So I'm going to put these to use just for the second time ever, and we'll just kind of see what we come up with. So, Mercedes, okay, I gotcha. You know, I feel like I'm, in my old age, I'm getting slightly better. I wouldn't say I'm good, but I am kind of learning a little more how to use them. So, all right, so I'm going to pull out 2 pieces of the watercolor cardstock because I want to use one for the background because I want to kind of put the barn back up there. And then the other ones I'm going to watercolor and die cut out. So I'm going to get that little girl with the wheelbarrow, do the apples. Like I said, maybe just pop, you know, a couple of the pig, the duck, I don't know, maybe that little chicken. I don't know which ones we'll use for sure, but I'm just going to put a few of them on and we can kind of watercolor them all. If I don't use them, that's okay, and I don't mind. I'm going to start with, I know, Barb, I love all the colors in that palette. It's been really fun. All right, I found that this ink works really great for watercoloring. It is pigment, so it's, yeah, it's perfect for watercolor, so it's not going to run. But also on the texture of the watercolor paper, so there's like that little bit of a bumpy texture, and I feel like this does a good job of getting to all those little grooves and everything really well. So that's kind of what I'm choosing to use for that. So let's start off with the little barn in the background because I kind of want this just sort of off in the distance, so it kind of just looks like it's peeking from kind of the back edge of the card, if that makes sense. So we're going to get that, make sure that's in place, make sure it looks level. I'm going to use the barn doors and the window as my reference because I feel like that'll be what makes it look skewed if those are. Hey, Leah. I knew Leah had to leave and couldn't come today, but it was kind of the only day that worked this week for me around appointments, except tomorrow Leah and I are going to go live together on Leah's YouTube channel. We're not going to do both channels this time like we did before, but we're going to go live with the new Pretty Pink Posh release. So if you are watching this now or replay and you're available tomorrow morning, it'll be the same time as this, just on Leah's channel. So look at how cute already. Like, look at how perfect that's stamped. I'm telling you, this ink is really great for on watercolor cardstock. So, all right, so this I'm going to set aside. We'll probably watercolor this last. I think I'll color all the other images, then we can die cut them. That way they'll have time to dry, and then this one can be drying while we do all of the die cutting, if that makes sense. Kind of trying to figure it out for the sake of going live. All right, there it is. Stamp cleaner real quick. I'm just going to clean that off real fast so that I don't have to worry about that. And then okay, now we want, and this might be where I pull this back over to kind of make a plan a little bit of where, so now I want that in the apples. Kind of like to lay it out a little bit just to kind of know what I'm doing. Then I can decide, do we want, I think maybe just that little pig. We might throw a couple of the little duckies on there and the chicken, but I don't know if we'll use all of those. But they'll be pretty small and easy to watercolor, so I'm really not too worried if we don't. I'll just save them for something else. That should be more than enough. Maybe a couple of those little apples. I don't know, like an extra little one falling out. Okay. Oopsie. Throwing stuff around. All right. So now it makes me want to think of a fun question for you as I'm doing this little scene and putting this together. How many of you are gardeners? Do any of you get excited to grow a garden when spring comes? tilt these around a little so I can fit as much on here as possible. I know I love to grow. I have a vegetable garden. That's kind of my my main sense of gardening. I've started to appreciate flowers a little bit more, but I've never been super great at growing them. Mary Ann, yay. What do you like to grow? I'm always curious what everyone's favorite vegetables are to grow, in case, I mean, I know a lot of it depends on where you live and climate and everything, but I still like to get fun new ideas of something that, you know, maybe I want to grow. I've learned some of my favorites over the years. All right, so we fit a good bit on this. One of our like absolute must grow every year is green beans. That's just like, since I was a kid, that's, if you've grown up on homegrown green beans, especially, I also like to can them. When people say that they don't like canned green beans, I'm always like, okay, are they store-bought, or have you ever had homegrown, home canned? And we've definitely converted some people that think they don't like green beans once they try. Wow, this actually stamped. I'm kind of just hitting some of the little spots just because of the watercolor texture. I'm not even re-inking that at all. I'm just kind of adding little additional pressure in the areas where the stamp didn't quite, you know, get into the grooves of the watercolor, but oh bother, I got a little bit on my, okay, that's the worst. Got a little bit of the ink on my finger. I think I did this in another live too. All right, I'm just gonna do a little additional there on the, there we go. I think that got all the spots that I needed. That's actually looking really good. I'm pretty content with that. Maybe a tiny bit more on the wheelbarrow there. And then I got, sometimes I've noticed this ink kind of gets like a little bit of a, for lack of a better word, kind of an airlock on it, and then it can be a little tricky to, okay, and then I need to get that inky smudge off of my fingers. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of water and clean it off, and then at least it shouldn't come off whatever's not water soluble. All right, little stamp cleaner. I'm just gonna do a quick little clean on these. A good scrub. I can always clean them better later if necessary. All right. So Carol, you must live somewhere where the temperature is really warm. I'm also going to put these away afterwards and not spend a bunch of time doing that for you. She says she grows vegetables as a winter garden in her greenhouse, outside garden in the summer because the summers are very hot. Cucumbers, tomatoes, lettuce, yes, lettuce, beans, tomatoes, that's another big one for us. I love fresh tomatoes and carrots. I wouldn't say we've always been super successful with those, but last year was like the best year, I think. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out the best way to kind of fit everything in here. So I'm going to kind of use this as a reference for the colors I'm going to use. And then, and again, disclaimer, full disclosure, I am not an expert watercolorist, but I do enjoy doing it. So we're just going to kind of roll with it the best that we can. I'm hoping I can kind of get everything in view of the camera good enough that you can sort of see. So this right here is my clean water. And then this will be for just cleaning my brush off as we go along. And then a dry cloth to kind of clean any excess off. And I'm just going to kind of work my way down the images. That way I'll have less risk of, you know, getting messy and everything. So I'm going to start, I think that pig will just do those kind of the two pink colors there. So I'll start a little bit with the softer. I'm going to do a little bit of that on the palette. Again, nothing too crazy fancy. Kind of clean off some of the extra to keep it from getting and like I said, definitely keeping her simple. So add a little bit of shading there. just using my dirty water for now until I get fully committed here, because that water's still clean, so I might as well keep my clean water for afterwards. All right, just blend that out a little bit. Put a shading there and under that. All right. I think that's pretty good. Get the deepest shading just right around on those edges there while I've got it out still. Fortunately, I'm keeping it from getting too crazy damp, so it's keeping me from getting like, you know, the color bleeding too far too fast. So it gives me plenty of time to kind of blend it out and get it where I want it. Okay. So nice and simple, but there's our first little image there. All right, now I got to think here. I'm not super great at remembering. I didn't look up a reference or anything, so let's grab a little bit of that green and see if that'll work for the chicken. We'll just throw a little bit of that down there. Like I said, this might not be perfectly realistic, but can't hurt anything, right? That's the beauty of art. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfectly realistic. Keep checking the comments. Oh, Mercedes, potted flowers are awesome. Oh, and I can imagine there's probably a lot of benefit to an apartment and less to take care of. Okay, we're gonna let's grab a tiny bit more of that just to deepen the color ever so slightly. Oops, throwing my brush. I actually haven't done like a huge amount of critters, to be honest. So this is kind of a fun little, okay, we're gonna throw a little red and maybe a little bit of that orangey tone on there to do the top of the chicken. I've kind of just learned in the little bit of watching that I've done, just get some color on there and then blend it out a little bit with just a slightly damp brush. It seems to do a pretty decent job without too much effort. So, and again, I don't want to really spend a ton of time on these today because I want to be able to move on to assembling the card too. So this is kind of me trying to make, you know, a good little simple bit of color on the images to be able to put them together. All right, which color? I think we're just going to grab a little bit of that straight orange and maybe a little bit of kind of the yellow. Let's see if we can sort of make a good, that'll work for the beak and the, sometimes you just got to kind of randomly put a few colors together and see what happens. That works. I can live with that. All right, but the clean, we're just going to do some of the straight yellow there, and that'll help get our little duckies. So keep that really simple. They don't need to be crazy complicated. Just going to kind of throw a little color on there. Something about watercoloring. Does anyone else feel this way? I don't know. To me, it is so just therapeutic. I don't know. I just kind of can't help but find it just relaxing. Like I said, on this, I'm kind of trying to speed up a little bit just so that I don't take too long on the live so we run out of time to get it all done. But we're going to grab that little bit of orange. That'll get those little feet and beaks. And again, this is kind of our secondary, like we might, I don't know, we probably will toss these on here, but there's a chance we won't. So I really definitely don't want to waste, you know, too much effort. I feel like this needs a little bit of contrasty color there. Oops. There we go. Sometimes just grabbing even a color from something else you did, like that. This was kind of that orangey mix that I made for the chicken, but it added some great shading there on the piggy so that it looked a little more realistic. So that was a good choice. You just put it over the pink and it just looks like a little bit of a deeper shade. All right. Oh, and Carol, thank you. We love doing it together between my traveling and her moving, which was, you know, a big enough deal to keep her busy for a while. We're really looking forward to getting back to being together there. So, all right, let's pull out a little bit. All right, let's get a little bit of color on some apples here. Kind of mix that really bright cherry red with just a touch of brown. And then I'm actually going to grab more of just that cherry red to kind of fill it in a little. So we get just kind of some shading and variation. Okay, clean that brush off and blend that together. I think that'll do the trick. Debated on if we should do red apples or green apples, and all things considered, I think either one would work. But okay, a little bit of that brown in there, just again to kind of hit the shading ever so slightly. I'll touch more of that brown down here. There we go. I want to keep those bright and happy. And oh, Barb, yes, I've seen some of those reels that I think I know what you're talking about. Watercolor videos are always just like really relaxing and inspiring, and right, just hitting the leaves a little bit there, nothing too fancy. Okay, and I'm keeping the waters kind of, or the the watercolors kind of together on this palette because I found it really helps to kind of keep everything cohesive the more you can kind of mix and match together. I'll probably have to clean some things off, but I'm going to use whatever colors. So like the last little bit of that yellow there, I think that's going to be perfect for her little boots. Because rain boots just, I feel like they should be. Ooh, I almost dropped that. I feel like rain boots should be yellow. And that's kind of a fun yellow tone on these. So we're just going to hit those really good. Okay. And then I think with the brown that we've already got on there, I think we're going to do just a little more of that and do that for the hair because I think that's a pretty good. Pick what color to do that little bow there, so I don't want to get that on there. Okay, then dry that off and we'll blend that out. Then we can add, that'll make a good base layer that'll add a little bit of shading. And then we can come in with a little more after we blend that out. Okay, a little more deeper there of the brown. So let's, and I don't know if I mentioned it much at the beginning, but just in case, I've got all of the supplies I'm using today are linked in that video description. So feel free to use that as a reference. If there's something you're kind of wondering about that I'm using. There we go. Kind of soften out that edge a little so we still get the shading, but without like the super harsh edge, if that makes sense. A little more of that deep brown, just to get a little more shading. Mercedes says, I like messy watercoloring, right? I was gonna say, and here's the thing, like for me, I feel like by default, watercolor just lends itself. The whole point of it is it should be a little messy, you know? I mean, I know if you're like really an expert, maybe that doesn't have to be the case, but in my very limited experience, I feel like it's the abstractness of it that works so well. Okay, I'm mixing a little bit of that kind of tan tone and a little bit of the pink to sort of make, I'm hoping, kind of a skin color. So we'll try that out. Maybe a dab more pink in there. Looks a little pasty, so oops, let's get clean water there. Sort of mixing that color because we want, that's better. That looks a little more natural there. That deeper shade with a little more of the pink, add a little more of the pink on the cheeks for a little bit of blush. Once again, don't mind me. I, don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just having fun doing it. That's right. And you know what? That's another great way to do it is just making, like a, okay, now blue, of course. Gotta have little blue overalls. Just make like a background and then stamp over the top. That's a great way to do it too. I love that idea. Let's see. You know what? I was gonna do two different colors, but I think I'm just gonna make all of this one color tone because it'll just be a little bit easier. But I feel like what little I've picked up with watercolors over time, the best is just like, don't completely fill in all of the image with color. Add like where you want the line. And I'm not even like super scientific worrying about, perfect shading or anything like that, but just somewhere that, pick a spot and just make that your line for the shading. And then when you come in and blend it out, it just adds some depth, some variation, something that makes it look a little more interesting than just, but then again, putting the color in straight up is totally fine too. All right, I think her bow should be a little pop of red there, don't you think? And blend that out. I think that's a perfect little pull all those colors in. So again, you kind of see how everything's like keeping all the colors kind of cohesive just by mixing and matching things in together. All right, what is the best shade? What do we have that's kind of close to a gray? Let me see, maybe a little bit of this mixed in with that blue, and then, because I kind of want that wheelbarrow to be a little on the, oops, well, that's not gonna work so well. Okay, this is where I pull out, I could go to the sink and wash stuff out, but wet wipes make a good, during a live at your desk when you wanna clean out a mess, do a great job of cleaning those out. So, all right, let's try that again. A little bit of the dark blue, a little bit of that together, a bit of clean water, a tiny bit of the brown. Let's see if we can kind of come up with, just gonna put that on a little corner there, a little more brown, I think. That might work for kind of a gray. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, right? Oop, and there we are, throwing the brush again. I think, oh, look at that. Okay, so kind of that taupe brown with a little bit of 2 shades of blue totally does the trick for at least a sort of gray tone. Just keep layering it up a little deeper in certain areas and blend out that. That works. And then maybe a little bit of darker brown just to kind of add that deeper shadow. Yep, I think we can work with that. Okay. And embossing, you know what, I do like to emboss. These images I felt like kind of needed a little bit more the, let's see if that's good, a little more the crisp black. I didn't really just want to go with the loose. Oops. Okay, made a little bit of a mess there, but that's okay. Grab some clean water, can do that fun little thirsty brush technique. It's kind of like erasing with, get a little water on it, kind of scrub it with a dry, clean dry brush. All right, and then get that wheel nice and deep too. Mix that with a little bit of, yeah, a little bit of green will kind of darken that down. A little bit of blue, who knows? This might look wretched, and then we'll learn and not make that mistake again. But I think that'll hit it on there good enough. I'm happy with that. All right, and then finally, we just need a little bit of, just kind of hitting the side of this, a little bit of color on this little apple barrel, mostly going for the brown there. Deepest there. Clean my brush off. Bye, Leah. Good luck on the house appointments. Those are always exciting and stressful and all of that stuff. I've not built a house, but I've watched enough people do it that I have no desire to do it myself. But I admire those who do. And I will very much look forward to coming to see Leah's new house when she gets that built all the way. Kind of restraining myself right now from visiting her in Montana, since I know she's very much in the limbo stage right now. Okay. All right. Here's what we kind of got going for us right now. So I think, whoops, a little splash of water. Let's clean that up before I make a bigger mess. I'm liking that. So we're going to set that aside. That's actually doing a pretty good job of drying so far. And you know what, though? I am going to add one little smidge more as I'm looking at that. I want to add a little bit of shading here with that cute little chicken. It just feels like it needs, there we go. Needs a little more, and we've got time for it to dry anyway, so why not, right? And deepen that a little, just add a smidge more. Okay, nothing big, it didn't really even have to happen, but since I was looking at it and thinking about it, I just thought, okay, that makes me a little happier with that. All right, set that aside, and then let's see, we're gonna need green, we don't need yellow, we're gonna need red, but I'm gonna freshen that up to a little more of that barn red. So I'm gonna clean out some of my little spots here in my paint palette. I'm not gonna need pink. Okay, that way we have some more spots open that we can put to use. Okay, I have my, I see Mercedes saying, don't drink the water, don't drink the water. That's why I don't use anything for watercolors that resembles a teacup. You know, that's just kind of my personal rule, because I feel like I would 100% be that person that would do that. So there will be no drinking of watercolor water for me. Or at least I hope not. Okay, I'm doing a really messy job here, so we're gonna do a quick little cleanup there. All right, and a little bit of fresh water. Blend this out. It's a little too much, but it's okay. I'm kind of making this a little, I mean, the colors in the front are going to be a little brighter and bolder because they're more front focal point. I want this to kind of be a little bit, what's the word? maybe like a little bit more dreamy, kind of off in the distance. So I'm keeping the colors on this a little bit softer than the front ones, if that makes sense. So that it kind of gives that hazy, off in the distance sort of feel. Well, if I do accidentally ever drink my water, you know it will be when I'm trying to watercolor live. So keep watching, stay tuned. You might get to see me for my first time drink my, you know what okay, I want to hear what everyone's strangest thing that you've ever accidentally like gotten in your mouth, ingested, whatever. I'll tell you, I don't know if this is the strangest. There's probably worse that I just can't think of right now, but one of the more memorable ones for me was it had been a while since I'd even been crafting, and I kind of felt something stuck in my teeth, and I felt like I'd had popcorn the night before, and so, you know, I just kind of assumed it was like a little piece of popcorn or something like that. Started digging at it, pulled it out of my teeth. Turns out it was a sequin, just a little clear, sparkly, pretty pink posh sequin, much to my surprise. And okay, get just a smidge of that for on there. Kind of keep that little bit of vintagey feel there. Okay. All right, so that's my strangest. I'm kind of watching to see what anyone else has as a funny story of anything along those lines. So if you have something, pop that in the comments. I'm going to be watching because. All right, that looks good for the barn. Hopefully you guys can kind of see where we're going. How are we doing for time? Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, good thing the rest of this card should not take very long. So let's move on here. I'm going to go for that soft, lovely green for the grass. This is going to be kind of, we're just going to put this on really, really good there. Lots of green. It's that soft color. And then we're going to come in with some clean water and just soften and blend it out. Nothing too crazy there. I just want this to sort of fade out into the foreground a little, if that makes sense. So keeping that one really simple. And this is why we did this second, so this can dry while we do all of our die cutting. All right, and then a little bit of clean water. Let's grab the deeper shade of green. Let's deepen that up, but keep it similar. And let's add a little bit of color to these bushes. They're pretty small, so they aren't going to take a lot. Probably made way more of that color blend than I need to, but that's okay. Gonna clean a little color off of those so that we keep some shading there. There we go. And then just a touch of really deep for the final bit of shading. Doing that upside down, so. Pottery water and a fly. Oh, okay. Not related to crafting per se, but I have to tell another funny. Let's see, Audrey, when I was a kid, I had a drink from a fast food restaurant, but I didn't finish. My mom dumped out and put it in used grease from cooking dinner. Oh, ugh. Okay, that is gross. I can't even imagine that. All right, we're gonna blend a little bit of that deeper green out there just because I feel like that was now too pale. So I'm just gonna kind of throw a little bit of that in there, blend it in, and that'll give us a little bit of variation in that green. Beautiful, that worked better. Just felt a little too lemony green until we blended a little bit of that in. Okay, finally a little bit on the sky, and then we should be ready to start die cutting and assembling. Okay, anyone else, anywhere, have those nasty Asian beetles. They look like ladybugs. I think they're called Asian beetle. I might have the name wrong. There might be a different name for them, but I remember reading that they had that's what they were called. So correct me if I'm wrong, but they have, I always tell people, like, they laugh at me. They're like, how do you know? And it's completely on accident. They kind of infest a lot of houses around Washington here in the springtime. I know our current house hasn't been as bad, but they get on everything and they taste horrendously bitter. Okay, let's see, Audrey. These are, that's linked in my video description. They're the Zik Kuretake. I'm totally saying that wrong, I'm sure. But it's a smaller paint palette, kind of like more pastel pinks. It's just kind of a favorite of mine that I really can't get enough of these days. So, all right, let's get a little more shadow layer in there and then blend that out just a little smidge. Okay, I think our background scene is done there. Anyway, so I remember sitting and eating. It happened 2 times. One of them, it literally got on the rim of my teacup, and I was reading a book and not really paying attention, and I went to take a sip and it got in my mouth, and oh, the worst thing ever. So I hate coffee. Like I love the smell of it, but I despise the taste. And I was even trying coffee to get the taste of those out of my mouth. And then a second time, similar, but I was eating a piece of toast. Again, reading a book. Apparently you shouldn't eat and read a book. Reading a book and just picking up all the little, you know, crumbs of your toast and popping them in your mouth because you don't want to waste, but not really paying attention. Always pay attention that time of year because I totally picked one up, shoved it in my mouth, and same thing. It took forever. Brushed my teeth. I also don't like spicy things. I tried all the things. It was not nice. So, all right, now I've got, so you can see here, this is something I learned from mostly Emily Midget, probably. That's my dirty water from cleaning my brush. This is the clean water that I used to either when I needed water on my thing or to grab some fresh watercolors. So I'll set those aside so I don't accidentally spill them. And we're going to set this aside, but there's that cute little seam. We're going to let that dry. We're going to pull all of our other little elements there. And let's do a bit of die cutting. I'm just going to, I think I can get all these die cut on one, dripped a little water there. Let's clean that up. I think I can get all these die cut kind of in one fell swoop if I do this right. So just start taping things in place, and then we should be pretty close to getting these all assembled, I hope. Because the hardest part is done. We just need to add a cute little sentiment, which I'll figure out in a moment when we get to that spot. Let's see. We don't need to cut out the barn. I'm gonna cut out that little separate little apple there, just because might as well. Let's see, the apple barrel. I don't want that. I need 2 pieces of tape for that. All right, any other funny, crafty, weird stories? I love those ones that make you laugh. Let's see, I want the cute little, there it is. That little duck that's running, because that one's easy to tell. And that little one. These little duckies are the cutest. All right, then just the pig, so we're almost there. A few little dies to tape down, but not too crazy. Ah, there it is. I was like, I know I saw the pig, but now where is it? Okay. And we'll just go die cut this all at once and then put this together. I will be right back. I agree. Tanya, I hope I said that right. I think the set is adorable. All right, so all of that looks like it die cut well. I'll put all these dies away a little later. For now, I'm just gonna pop all our cute little images out and not waste your time as I get all those dies reassembled. So fun fact, I don't know how many other farm people we have on here, but I grew up on a farm when I was a kid. Ironically, a lot of the animals on this set. So we never had pigs, never had a cow. We did have chickens, we had ducks, grew apples. We had sheep, we had goats, we had horses, we had llamas. Of course, a garden. Oh my goodness. Okay, already loving how this is coming out. So I want to tuck. Okay, this is where we're going to pull out something a little else too. I've got my Tonic Studios. It's a little craft knife thing. I actually want to cut a little line on the wheelbarrow so I can tuck that apple barrel so it looks a little more like it's kind of inside there. So I'm going to try not to put my head in there. Let's see if we can. And my glass mat should be okay. I probably should pull out a self-healing mat or something to. Okay, cut a little more than we wanted there, but let's see if I can get that to cut through. I may regret this, but felt like there we go. Okay, we're getting it a little bit. So I've got that kind of cut. I don't want to ruin my glass mat too much. So now that I have a little spot in there, I'm just going to sneak in with scissors. I kind of forgot to think ahead and pull a mat out so that I didn't. That should allow. There we go. That's a little cuter. I think it kind of makes it look a little more realistic how it's tucked in there. So now we can kind of put that little barrel of apples. And then, like I said, let's see if we can. And if I don't, I'll tuck all these other little critters on something else a little later. So as I'm looking, I'm kind of going, you know, maybe one of the little duckies there, but I don't know if we're going to be able to fit. You know, maybe. No, I think we're going to actually keep some of these off of here. So I might put these on another project down the road. Like save the little. Just kind of play with our layout a little bit. And then I think I kind of like that. So I might keep the extra little, these little elements, because if I put them back up there, it just, in proportion to the barn, it just feels like they look too big. So we don't have to use everything. And then we just need to fit a fun little, kind of like that apple of my eye one. Then again, the birthday is pretty good. Happy birthday from all of us. I think let's just go with that. Oh, and look at that. It even all fits on there. Do I have? Yes, there's a coordinating die. All right, well, that finishes its last few seconds of drying. Let's go ahead. I'm going to grab a different Misty out so I don't have to put all my images away that I didn't clean up yet. And just stamp this in black on a white cardstock scrap that I have laying around, and then we can die cut it. So that'll make that super easy. And then I just got to pop all those little images up on some foam to get them all assembled there. Should be a piece of cake. And then we'll add a tiny bit of bling maybe to finish this off, because that's always a good idea. Clean that off real quick. Okay. That messy up one of my older ones, but I had it still nearby, so that worked well. There we go. Put that the right direction, not upside down. And we'll quickly die cut. So again, if you joined late, I'm just going to throw out the information that Leah and I are going live on her channel tomorrow together. We're going to start kind of taking turns. I know the first time we did it, we went live together on the same channel, or on both of our channels, which I think made it a little crazy. We just kind of figured everyone could join whichever one they felt like, but I think everyone kind of hopped back and forth, which did get a little confusing. So we're going to just start kind of alternating which channel we go on. All right, let's see how this fits on there. Yep, I like that. Now I just got to decide, do I tuck it? That actually kind of fits good there too. Kind of just finishes off that edge where the line kind of ends. So I actually might almost like that. All right, before I stick these down, I'm going to trim this down ever so slightly, not too much, but I just want, and yes, I agree completely. Need to bling to finish off the card. Yes, sorry, I was trying to read the other comment there. Okay, so I'll take a little edge off of that and a little edge off of here. That way we can mat it on a white card base that, of course, I forgot to make. Oh, you know what? We'll just do a side fold. I do have a side fold ready. It doesn't have to be. I'm so used to top folding, but side fold will be fine. And I'm not going to mount it on foam or anything. I'm just going to use some good sturdy, I feel like watercolor does really well with this Scor-Tape for me because it keeps it from curling up, and it also doesn't take the time of liquid adhesive to dry. So it's kind of my go-to for watercolor. And I'm purposely not going too close to the edge because I'm actually okay if those edges slightly curl up from the water on there, because I feel like it kind of just adds a little bit of dimension and texture without actually needing to put a bunch of foam on there. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me it seems logical. All right, so on our side fold, I'm just keeping that white border because I just feel like it kind of adds a little bit of a fun framing effect to that. And then I can actually kind of go off the edge a little bit here on some of this so it kind of grounds that image ever so slightly. But there, add that little ducky running off the side there. That one down there. All right, time for a little bit of foam adhesive. I was kind of getting worried there for a while that we weren't gonna be able to finish this, but it looks like we're actually doing a pretty good job at getting this card fully assembled in our hour. So thanks for hanging in there with me. I was kind of going, am I gonna have to finish something later, but I think we've got it. All right, just get some foam on there because, you know, dimension, why not, right? Okay, that there. Little smidge on that cute little ducky. And I've listed a couple options for bling. I'm not entirely sure yet which one I'm going to use. So when we get there, I'll pull them both out and then we can make that decision. The duck needs to come kind of sneak out from behind there. I know those duckies. I kind of want to make a whole card of just the duckies. gonna get that piggy so that it doesn't cover up too much of the wheelbarrow, but I just want to keep his. There we go, I like that. Okay, then that last little ducky, and then our sentiment. This one I'm kind of propped in front of that there. Oh yeah, and then we've got that little apple. That's our last little piece there. Where do we want him running? Look like something like that. I don't know, maybe that's too close to the edge. Let's get that little apple snuggled in there. Just felt like having one little apple falling out kind of makes it a little more realistic. There we go. That's a good spot. Okay, then the sentiment, I really do think I'm gonna just kind of tuck it over on the side there. I mean, it could fit in there too, or it could go up at the very top, but I think along the side there is kind of my favorite, so I'm just gonna commit and go with that. I think it's a good decision. It's not like it's impossible to change it later if I do change my mind, but let's see. I kind of want to, let's see, where do I want to go? I want to go, there we go. I want to hide that little line there, but I also want to keep enough of the roof there, and I'm okay if that just slightly hangs off the edge. Okay, last finishing touch, a little bit of bling. So let's pull out the two choices I grabbed, and I'll see which one ends up matching. So I got these adorable Simple Stories. They're enamel dots, but I don't know if you can see on there. They've got like this fun iridescent glitter. It's so pretty and so cute. So I thought those might be kind of fun on there. But I also have these Trinity stamps. They're like little iridescent bubbles. And these are a pretty solid choice too. So I don't know. Kind of torn on, because I think if I do these, I think I'd tuck a couple little up there. Maybe put like one of the little red ones on the bow. Yeah, okay. So that already, I can already see. I definitely want to do one of the little red ones on her bow. And then I think I am just gonna tuck a couple little green ones down here around the sentiment. Let's wiggle that under there a little so that it kind of, I really do like that. I think those are super cute. Okay, and then I think a couple of the blue ones will go kind of cute up there. I feel like this is adding just kind of a fun little playful touch that is super cute. Maybe one of the little, let's see, where do we want to put? Like a little orange one there. Spread those out. I think that adds a little fun touch. Oopsie, down there. I think that's good enough. What do you think? I think that's a fun little touch of bling. And kind of out of my normal little, as I'm looking at it in hindsight, I kind of wish, I think I'm too late because I already stuck it down. I kind of wish I'd rounded that corner off because I think that would add a fun little touch, but I think I've got that stuck down just a little too well. Well, let's see. Can we maybe, yeah, don't mess with it, Heather. Leave it alone. I think it's still super cute that way. Fun. So thank you for hanging in there with me. We got it like right on the hour. I will get this photographed and posted later. Oh yay, Audrey, yep, another farm girl. All right. I'm really happy. I think that set is just so stinking adorable. It makes me really happy. All right, let me turn my camera around and we'll say a quick little goodbye and let you guys go on your way. Once again, anything that you are curious about is all linked in the video description, kind of down at the bottom. I will get this posted probably to my blog today. It's got great light. I'll get some photos taken. I'll get a post written up, and I'll get that kind of up where it needs to be. And yeah. And then if you are free tomorrow, hop in and join Leah and I live with the Pretty Pink Posh release on her channel. So you're going to want to head over there. Sometime in the next couple weeks, we'll go live on my channel. I'm not quite sure with what yet. We'll just kind of pick that when we get there. And then I'm hoping to do a live sometime next week. I actually want to break out. I got a little bit of Altenew product. And I have their big stamp wheel 2.0 that I want to put to use a little bit. So maybe I'll see you sometime next week. I haven't picked a day yet. I'm kind of just playing it by ear at this point while I kind of get my groove back after being gone and traveling. But thank you so much everyone who joined me today. And I hope you just have a lovely weekend and enjoy hopefully some lovely spring weather wherever you are. And I will see everybody again soon.